Previously on X-Men.
I would say it's a bummer, but then we're going to be talking about an actual bummer next week.
Oh, Lord have mercy on us all when we get there. Next week,
yes, go.
we're going to be talking about the Wolverine trio, which is X-Men Origins Wolverine. Oh, God. The Wolverine, where he is in Japan, and then Logan. Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back to another episode of the Concession Stand. This is Zenrotto, of course, joined by my partner in crime, Wokey.
I'm here and committing crime.
Specifically movie-related crimes.
Movie crimes, that's right.
All movie crimes. Speaking of movie crimes, let's talk about our first movie.
Death Note. No, just kidding. It's Wolverine.
Yeah, we're not that topical yet.
No, we're not.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So, this week we're doing the Wolverine trilogy of X-Men movies, which is the 3 movies that focus primarily on him from a plot standpoint,
Yeah,
not just from everything else standpoint.
Not counting every other movie that kind of has a heavy Wolverine subplot in it.
Exactly. Okay. So the first one is a massive... It's just a straight-up meme movie. Nobody thinks this movie is any good. Is X-Men Origins Wolverine, which... oh, God, I don't even want to really review the plot, but I'll do it anyway.
Do it.
So... This movie is here to show you the origins of Wolverine, where he comes from, and to let you know that, yes, even your favorite superhero, his origins sucks ass, too.
Yeah, to let you know that we all were just tiny Canadian children.
Yeah, he's a little boy in Canada. His dad gets killed by just some guy that I guess is, like, I don't know, some dick. And it makes his mutation come out, where he gets his bone claws, and then he kills the guy that kills his dad, who then is like, I'm actually your dad.
And you can tell it's his real dad because they share the same mutton chops that Wolverine gets in the future.
Yeah, if you were curious. So literally the movie opens with a boy's father getting killed, and then the boy killing the killer, and then the killer says, I'm your real dad. And then that's the movie.
And then also, oh man, this is so fucking bad because the mom, he literally just saved his mom. And then the mom, the second after she kills the killer, she's like, you're a monster. It's like, what the fuck? You're the worst.
Yeah, what do you fucking want from me, lady?
I just saved your ass. How about some fucking respect for the new man of the house? Because I just killed the previous man.
Yeah. So, God Almighty.
Good, continue.
So yeah, he runs away with the murderer / his real dad's other son, Victor Creed, who you will recognize by name as eventually Sabretooth. And then they have a Rocky-esque montage of them fighting in various wars, yes, which I believe is like the Civil War, World War II, and Vietnam or something like that.
Yeah, World War I and then World War II, because remember, that was back-to-back.
Right, you're right. And then Victor's like going crazy, and he's evil now, and Wolverine protects him from the army that's trying to kill him. And then they get sentenced to execution, but they don't die because they're Wolverines. And then Stryker, who is the douche behind all of the Wolverine movies, recruits them onto his team, which is Team X? Is it Team Weapon X? What is it, team?
I think it's just Team Weapon X. Like, I don't remember if they give him a name, but I know
I thought they had a name, but it was stupid.
Yeah, I think it's something like Weapon X. I want to say it's X-Force, but that's not X-Force. That's Cable and Deadpool team.
Yeah, and the members of this team now are Wolverine, Sabretooth, Agent Zero, who is just like some Asian guy whose power is that he's really good with shooting guns.
Yeah, his power is gun. He mutated guns.
Yeah. Proto Deadpool, who is Deadpool before Deadpool, which we'll cover him later.
Yep.
John Wraith, who is Will.I.Am, and that's pretty much he's just playing himself.
He is. Oh my
Yeah.
god.
I think the Blob is one of them.
Yeah, the Blob is one of them.
And then-
Before he's fat.
Yeah, before he's fat, and then like that guy from Lost, the blonde guy from Lost. I think his name was Charlie.
Fuck. Now I'm not even 100% sure who this character is in this team.
His mutant power is some mental bullshit. Like he's
Oh.
telekinesis or something.
No, he's like electric man. He can
That's
control
what
light.
it is.
He can control light bulbs or some shit.
Yeah, like he's because he's in a fair later, and that's like his gimmick trick.
Yeah. Continue.
Yeah. Well, anyway, they join the team, and James is chooses to go by Logan instead of James because that's where I guess that's his dad's name, right? That's his family name.
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, anyway, he chooses to go by that name instead, and but then he quits, and then now he's a lumberjack in Canada. So it opens with the ending to Dexter. So you know this movie is going really well already. He has a girlfriend who I think is supposed to be Native American. I think.
Is she?
Well, her name is
Oh.
Silver Fox.
I don't think so, because later on they reveal what she's related to, and let me tell you, there is no Native American blood in that family.
I'm just saying her name is Silver Fox. So
You're saying is that they tried.
I'm saying that they probably thought she should have been Native American, but really they just casted like a slightly tan white girl.
Okay, fair enough. Like
Yeah.
if they were casting Thunderbird, they would just get a very tan white guy.
Right.
Okay, I get you.
So, evil army guy shows up and he's like, "Hey, Logan, some members of the team are dead, and we think someone's trying to kill them all." And Logan's like, "I don't give a shit. Fuck you. I'm the ending to Dexter now." And then he comes back and he finds his wife's dead body, and that's all he needs to know to find out that it was Victor that killed her. I guess she has like claw marks or something.
Yeah, I think he's also able to smell Victor. And he has this weird ability that he sometimes forgets, which is that he can smell Victor. So sometimes he's like, I can smell Victor right away, and then other times Victor is able to just kind of hide from him. It's really inconsistent.
Reminds me of the spider sense not working when it just needs to not work.
Yes, only this is much worse because he should be able to constantly smell him.
Yes, because it's just a normal human sense. It's not something crazy.
Yeah.
So yeah, anyway, he finds his girlfriend's body after she gives him some kind of speech that's like the where he gets the name Wolverine from. It's some stupid ass legend.
Something about a moon goddess fell in love with a wolf, and then the wolf got tricked by a trickster god, and then he is separated from him, and that's why he howls at the moon, because he wants to be reunited.
God, that's dumb.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
that's pretty classic, I think, kind of. I'm not sure if that's a real story, but it follows the structure similarly of like a god story of a man losing a goddess because he was an idiot.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Well, anyway, Stryker's like, "Oh, you want to kill Victor now because he killed your girl? I can give you metal claws so that you can fight Victor." Because I think they have a fight in the bar,
Yeah.
but Victor beats the shit out of him.
There's this running theme that I've realized after watching the 3 Wolverine movies and thinking back to X-Men 1. Wolverine keeps starting shit in a bar. Like every single movie, it feels like at one point he enters a bar and then immediately ruins the bar.
Well, to be fair, Wolverine just kind of exists either in missions or on in bars, so
Maybe
it's just
but
what he does.
I kind of want to say if you like started all 4 movies at the same time, each one would enter a bar at the exact same moment. That's how it feels like.
Oh god! But yeah, Logan fights Victor. He gets his ass kicked, and then Victor breaks his claws off because they're just bones.
Yeah.
But then Stryker's like, "I'll make him metal," and then he can't break him off anymore. And he's like, "All right, fuck it." And then Stryker's like, "All right, wipe his memory because we want him to be Weapon X now. We got him." But he says that shit while Wolverine's awake for some reason.
Well, yeah, Wolverine's awake and he hears him, and then
Yeah, so he just fucking says it right in front of him. So he hears him say it, and then he breaks out, and he kills a bunch of the guys, and he runs away.
there's a real good moment too. And like, after he said that, he's like, probably shouldn't have said that."
Yeah,
while
like,
he was awake.
fuck? He's still awake, and he tells him that he's gonna betray him, like to his face.
Basically, like
After
he
giving
tries
him the super metal.
Yeah, he tries to whisper it, but then he remembers, like, oh, fuck, he's a mutant. I forgot he has super hearing.
I forgot he can hear super well.
Shit.
So
My one weakness.
yeah, he breaks away and he gets onto this old couple's farm, I believe.
Let me tell you, he also constantly kills people in a farm.
Yes, on farms who try to help him. He's on this old couple's farm, and they're like, "Hey, son, you remind me of my son," and that's the majority of their character. Though they have one of those pseudo funny scenes that every origin movie has to have, where the hero is not used to their new powers, so they're constantly fucking shit up.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so Wolverine is in their bathroom with like the worst CGI you've ever seen in your life for his claws on his hands. It's really bad.
The plane in the beginning of this movie is also really bad. Like, there's a shot of a plane, and I could have swore it was a PS2, like, opening graphic.
But so he pops his claws in the bathroom, and he's looking at him, and then he just starts fucking shit up. But, like, you've had those claws your whole life, so why are you now unable to understand how they work?
Other than, like, all of a sudden you're very metallic.
Yeah. So anyway, Stryker's crew catches up with them after they give him his trademark jacket thing that he wears in the other movies.
Yeah.
Turns out he got it because, in true superhero origin story fashion, nothing can just be a thing that he wears. His dog tag's got to come from the girlfriend in this. The jacket's got to come from somewhere. I'm surprised we didn't find out where his boots came from. I wonder, did the boots come from the old couple too?
I think so, because
I think the whole outfit came from the old couple.
Because he's naked when he shows up, and the farmer is like, "Listen, I don't want you to give my wife a heart attack. Please put on these clothes."
So yeah, his whole outfit it comes from this old couple.
I also want to mention the dog tag thing. It's a pretty hilarious scene because he's like, "I want new dog tags. What do you want on them?" "Wolverine." And then the Striker's like, "All right, put Wolverine on it, I guess."
Yeah, he's like, "Fuck it, that's fine. Do it.
"Give the man
Whatever.
what he wants."
Yeah,
He's Wolverine.
we're gonna loudly betray him in a little bit anyway. So,
Yeah, it really doesn't make sense, like, why he's helping him so much.
but so Stryker's crew catches up with the old couple on the farm, and Agent I Shoot Guns Good is fighting them. Well, he's not really fighting them; he's just murdering them.
He just
kills
kills
the
two old people.
Yeah, he just shoots them, and then he's like, "Oh man, Weapon X killed him. He totally did it."
Oh man, Weapon X.
Ignore their bullet wounds.
Yeah, he's like the shitty. It's the Dave Chappelle "let's sprinkle some crack on him" joke.
Yeah, like
they did that, but they tried to make it into a serious scene.
the guy who fights with knives in his hands shot these two old people.
It's crazy.
So, and then Wolverine does the most retarded video game shit I've ever seen in my life, and he takes down the helicopter. Because I believe he does it. I forget how he gets on it. Doesn't he flip off the bike?
Yeah, I think he like caused an explosion, and through the
They
explosion,
shoot a rocket or something at him.
Yeah, and then he
He rams it with the bike and uses it to launch himself into the blades of the helicopter, and he slices the blades with his new claws.
Yes.
Yeah, and then the helicopter crashes, and then Agent Zero's like, "Oh, I'm still alive, so what I should definitely do is fuck with him while I'm still alive, and he's trying not to kill me." So he just starts talking a bunch of shit, and then Wolverine slices the gas trail, because apparently the gasoline from the helicopter went really fucking far away.
Yeah.
And he slices it with his claws that then spark on the ground and ignite it and burn him to death. And then he meets up with Will.i.am and the Blob, and they're like, "You gotta go talk to Gambit," because Gambit is for some reason in this movie.
Yeah. And then
Press F to pay respects for Gambit.
And then he has a random fight scene with Blob because he said bub and he takes it as blob.
Yeah, he doesn't. The Blob is very sensitive about his weight, apparently.
I mean, I understand. I recognize when you're that big, you're just like, come on, man. I'm just trying my best here. I'm trying to work out. My fucking trainer's Will.i.am. Give me a fucking break. I have to look at him.
And then Wolverine knocks him out, I believe, by shattering his skull, because it should have done that. Yeah. He elbows him in the head, and you hear it be the adamantium that hits him. But he's okay.
It's also why you never see him again, because I think he dies from a concussion later on.
So, anyway, he goes to find Gambit, and Gambit's like, "Yeah, I know about that asshole Stryker. He has some kind of mutant facility." And Will.i.am also came along with him for no reason. I think he literally just says, "I'm going with you, Logan." And he just does.
Yeah, he does.
And then I think that's actually all he says.
Let me tell you, this is how he speaks throughout the entire movie. Logan, come on now, you know Weapon X do that. We kidnap Weapon X children. That's all he basically says. Like, he says it that, like, very stilted, like, I am clearly Will.I.Am trying to put on an accent.
Yeah, if you've ever seen Will.I.Am talk, that's just his character in this.
Yeah.
But he's also aware he's supposed to be acting, so he even sounds fake talking like himself.
It sounds like he's trying to put on, like, a fake Southern accent.
It's not working.
No, it's not.
I didn't even get Southern out of his performance. I guess the cowboy boots and the cowboy hat should have tipped me off, but I did not get it.
But I will say, granted to him, he has maybe the best scene in the movie, which is his death.
Yeah. So, yeah, while Logan is fighting Gambit, Victor is there, and he starts fighting him. And Will.I.Am's mutant power is that he can teleport.
Yeah.
So he's beating the shit out of Victor because he can fucking teleport. And then Victor grabs him by the spinal cord as he's reforming. And he goes, "You're predictable," which is the dumbest shit I've ever heard in my entire life.
But I think it's okay because it's performed by, I cannot believe, Liev Schreiber. Liev Schreiber gives it a kind of like, you're predictable. Like, Liev Schreiber has no angry voice. He has a, hello, I'm Liev Schreiber. So that's him throughout this entire movie. He's very much like, I once saw a documentary about comic books. He gives the exact same accent he gave in that narration that he does in this performance.
So funny as shit. But yeah, he catches him as he's rematerializing from a teleport by the spinal column, and then he snaps his fucking spine and kills him.
Which I thought was, when I saw this movie when I was like a teenager, I thought that's a pretty good kill. It doesn't make much sense, but it does raise a lot of questions of like, I wonder if Nightcrawler has to deal with this. If I just put my fist out where I think Nightcrawler's gonna be, is my fist just
will
gonna,
I
like,
win? Yeah, will it be in him?
Oh, I'll be inside of him and I'll go like, well, now we're both in a shitty situation right now.
So Victor takes his DNA because that's what they're doing. They're getting mutant DNA or whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
And then Gambit's like, all right, man, I'm going to take you to the facility. And then Logan finds out that Kayla was not actually his girlfriend. And Stryker was like, fuck you, you have to watch Logan. Otherwise, I'm going to kill your sister, who is for some reason Emma Frost, I think?
It is Emma Frost.
Why?
I don't know. So I'll give you my reason why once we finish up this summary. But yeah.
All right. So they get to this facility, and Wolverine's like, Victor, and then they fight each other again, and then Stryker's like, all right, I'm not gonna release your sister because I'm an asshole. And he's not going to give Victor his metal claws because he'll die for some reason.
That is because, like, he won't get metal claws, he'll get metal fucking fingernails.
I guess that's true.
Like, think about it. The reason why I think Stryker's not giving it to him, because he would look fucking stupid with adamantium fingernails. Like, I'm the president. Excuse me, you spent how much money to give this motherfucker some adamantium fingernails?
That's true. And then they decided to make Wade Wilson into Deadpool by sewing his mouth shut, making him shirtless, and injecting mutant power into him, because that's just a thing you can do, is you just inject mutant power into other people. So he has... Oh, Cyclops is in this movie for some reason.
He's also in this movie. Victor
I forgot
captures
Cyclops
him
is in this
point.
movie. Yeah. And they take his DNA and give it to Deadpool. And so Deadpool has Cyclops' laser eyes. He has Will.I.Am's teleporting. I think he has the healing.
The adamantium
And then he
claws.
has, but it's swords. It's fucking swords.
Wait, yeah, I guess it is. I like the idea of just like he just summons swords out of his hand like he's a fucking like magician of some kind.
But see, so he puts the swords out of his arms, and they come out like Wolverine's claws do. But they're really they're swords. So they're like, but when they're in his arms, he can still use his arms normally.
Yeah, unless like he has the mutant power that turns all bones to swords, which that's a very fucked up mutant power.
But him and Victor fight him, of course, and they win. Kayla gets killed trying to lead all of the mutants to Professor X, who is for some reason CGI'd in the woods, just outside.
Yeah, and you can tell this is set in the past because he's walking.
No, he's still in the wheelchair, but he's youngified.
Okay, I could have swore he was
You're
walking.
thinking about X3 where he's walking.
Yeah, maybe
Yeah.
so.
But yeah,
He's younger.
he's younger and he's there in the woods outside the facility with a helicopter, just like, come on, come to me, young mutants.
Come to me, come to my embrace. Let me show you my school for magical,
Yes.
not magic mutants.
Not basically magic though.
Yes.
And then Stryker is like, I'm gonna kill him with these adamantium bullets because I can kill him, and it totally doesn't kill him. Or what does he say? The brain will heal, but the memories won't grow back.
Yeah, even
Yeah.
though he's just been told, like, hey, this isn't gonna kill him, he's like, it's okay, I'll just make him forget everything. Like, in a move that must be because, like, you're in this part of the movie, you go, I wonder at what point does he lose his memory? It turns out it's because Stryker was like, hey, fuck it, if I can't kill him, I'll make him forget everything.
Yep, pretty much. So he shoots him in the face with an adamantium bullet, which knocks him out. And then he's gonna go shoot his ex-girlfriend, and then she grabs him, and she's like, I should make you kill yourself, because her mutant power is that she can make people do whatever she wants.
Yeah, as long as she's
But she's like, we're not gonna stoop to your level. So just walk until your feet bleed, which is not that big of a punishment.
And also, really?
Yeah. Mind you that she's bleeding from a mortal wound that he caused.
And also, like, notice that all the crazy shit he's done, like, he deserves to die at that moment.
Easily.
All the things in X2 is because she could not let him kill himself. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, and then Deadpool picks up his head, and he's like, shh, I can talk now. But thank God the sequel never came out for that. And then there's a scene where Logan...
that's all the way at the end.
Yeah, well, this is the end, I think.
No, I mean, that's like a after the credits scene.
Oh, yeah. It's post-credits. He's in Japan, and the barmaid is like, oh, are you drinking to forget? And he's like, nah, I'm drinking to remember. And then it ends.
There's also a really amazing scene where Gambit's like, yo, Wolverine, we gotta go. And then Wolverine's like, nah, it's okay. I can handle it from here. And then Gambit's like, are you fucking sure? Because there's a lot of people coming, and we can just fly away. He's like, no, I'll be fine on my own. Okay, man who just lost every single bit of his memory, I guess this is a goodbye.
Well, yeah, he's like, come on, Logan. And he's like, who are you? And Gambit's like, all right.
Like...
Fuck it. All right, I'm leaving. Fuck it.
It's a real dick move by Gambit.
So that's the movie. I'm guessing you loved it.
At one point, this movie broke me. I was describing it to you, but there's a point where near the end when Victor shows up. Also, this is probably the greatest running gag. I'm calling it a gag because half of Wolverine's lines is screaming the name Victor. Like he does
I think it's actually every time they like. I know he does it once when they're in the past, and Victor's like, I think he's trying to rape someone or something, like some girl, and he's like, Victor, Victor. And then he finds out that Victor did it, and he's like, Victor! And then he fights him in the bar, and he's like, Victor! And they fight, and that's like all of his lines when they interact with one another.
So, let me try and set this up. So Wolverine, he has the jacket on, he's leaving behind his lady love. And then his lady love gets threatened by Victor, and Victor is about to kill her, but then he can sniff that she's in danger. So... he's about to kill her, and then you hear the catchphrase, Victor! And you turn around, and Wolverine is, like, far the fuck away, but for some reason he's thrown away his jacket like he's getting ready for a Yakuza-style fight.
Just gonna slow him down, man.
He's just
gotta go full speed.
He's just in an undershirt. But I was just looking at it like, motherfucker, you had the element of surprise. Why didn't you just go up and slash? Like, he does a lot of... And I replayed this maybe 30 times because one, I kept laughing at the delivery of Victor because he does do like, this is the ultimate Victor. This is the one, like they told Hugh Jackman, okay, this one is the one that matters the most in the movie. This is what's gonna sell everything. You need to yell Victor. And it's ridiculous. Like, this movie is terrible.
Yeah, this movie sucks ass. There's nothing I even really liked about it. The performances aren't very good.
No.
The
The
story
only thing.
sucks. They shit on all the characters.
So here's the thing where I think like where things started to go bad. Like you saw some of this in X3 where they started including mutants that people wanted and then they didn't know why people wanted them. So they included like a lot of people that I assume people had been asking for. Like, Blob is a pretty old, if you watch at least the animated series, I think, like an old villain from there. So they included him in the movie. Gambit has been one that people have been asking for, chances are, since the first one. And Sabretooth gets to come back from also the first movie because they're like, hey, you can't do Wolverine without Sabretooth. The dudes are basically at the hip. But they don't actually know why people like any of those characters. Like, their version of Gambit is some random dude who forgets he has a Cajun accent every other word.
So, okay. I don't hate the guy they chose to be Gambit. I hate that they chose him to be Gambit.
Yeah. It really doesn't fit, especially because this Gambit also really sucks. There's a point where they're fighting each other, and then Logan realizes that there's another fight, so he like backhand Super Saiyan Blue Goku's him and knocks him out of the fight.
They're having like a full-on fight, right? Like they're like Gambit's beating the shit out of him. Like he hits him with the cards and it launches him through a wall. And then Wolverine's like, "Oh, I smell Victor. I'm done fighting." And he just backhands Gambit and knocks him the fuck out. Yeah, like he totally wasn't beating the shit out of him a second ago.
This is what, like, even my bird's getting angry now. Like, trying to fight with me, because this is like if you ever see any complaints about like the wrestler John Cena, this is what we're complaining about, is that he also does this where he randomly just goes, "I guess I wasn't injured at all," and just wins. And it's the most infuriating shit ever.
Yeah,
it doesn't make any sense.
So my favorite scene is, your bird is pissed. It's a good movie to get pissed about, Bird.
Yes, it is, Kiko. He knows.
So my favorite scene in this movie is, I believe it comes right after a Victor! He pops both of his new metal claws, and he holds them at his sides, and he runs through all the mutant cages, and he's cutting all their locks. But
That's
like,
right!
Yeah, he's slow-mo running with like this angry face on. And he's just running through all the fucking cages. And there's like this crazy trail of sparks behind him, and it's in slow motion for some reason.
Did you also have the Balls of Fire song in your head? The da-da-na-na, da-da-na-na-na.
I don't even... There's nothing to review here. This movie is a piece of shit. Everything's bad. Everything sucks, and I don't think we're covering any new ground by saying everything fucking sucked.
Yeah, there's nothing we can really say about it that if you really like bad, terrible things, I think it might actually be the worst X-Men movie.
It absolutely, I would much rather watch X-Men 3 than this, because X-Men 3 at least has good performances in it. Even Hugh Jackman wasn't that good in this movie.
No, and he's usually giving it his all every movie.
Yeah, this movie was a complete piece of shit, and that's really all. Like, Ryan Reynolds was Deadpool, and as you know, he wanted to do it because he wanted to be Deadpool, and then they fucked Deadpool, so he didn't even give a shit. Everyone just fucking sucked. Will.i.am wasn't even acting. He was just being Will.i.am.
And this also was what set back a Deadpool actual movie from happening. Like, you have to understand that this version of Deadpool was so bad, it prevented Deadpool from being actually made into a movie.
Yeah, it fucking, like, destroyed the public image of Deadpool to the point where we never knew if a movie was ever gonna happen.
Yeah, that's another mutant. They had no idea why people like Deadpool. It's the most baffling thing ever to me. But yeah, it's terrible.
Let's be done with this piece of shit. Let's move on to the moderately acceptable, The Wolverine.
Yeah, the Wolverine. Better known as Wolverine in Japan.
Now this one, for some reason, the second part of the Wolverine trilogy jumps from his origin story to after the X-Men trilogy. So this one actually comes after The Last Stand.
Yeah, it does. And also, one moment, let me see if I can shut up my bird.
I heard you say bird name, shut up, and then it squawked at you, and you're like, no, fuck you, I'm not shutting up.
No, but at least it's not doing a constant one anymore. At least it doesn't sound that way. Anyway, where were we? The Wolverine.
Just beginning The Wolverine.
Yes, the fifth movie in the No, is it the sixth at this point?
I think this one comes after some First Class at least.
It comes after First Class, but in the timeline, it takes place after X-Men 3.
Yes.
Okay. So this movie begins, the Wolverine starts off, Logan's in Japan, he's just hanging out, and then you see a Japanese soldier, and he's like releasing a bunch of people, because guess what, the atomic bomb's about to drop, and then Logan ends up saving the dude. No, he doesn't end up saving the dude. Yeah, he does end up saving the dude.
He does, yeah. The bomb's going off, and he pins the guy beneath like a metal door, and that's apparently all you need to not die to a nuclear bomb.
Yeah, as long as you got Logan near you. So then cut back to present day. Logan is living a hermit lifestyle, and he's having hallucinations about Jean Grey because he stabbed her in the belly. He's living like a fucking basically like a homeless guy. He actually looks a lot like how in Man of Steel how Superman looks like in the beginning. He kind of looks like that.
Yeah, he does actually.
He does. And so this is important because he ends up fucking with a bunch of hunters that made a bear go crazy, and he's gonna kill him. They
killed it with a poison arrow.
Yeah, well, they didn't kill it. They let him go
crazy. Well, yeah, they poisoned it and then let it run away. So, he was in a frenzy because he was dying and he was going nuts.
Yeah, and that bear was his friend. At least in my version of the movie that I saw, which I think was an extended rated R cut. It looked like he was pretty friendly with that bear. Anyway, he's gonna, stab them all, but then a Japanese mutant lady shows up with a sword, and she, cuts down their beer and then tells them, hey, you should come with me to Tokyo because some guy wants to see you. This guy is dying of cancer. I think his name is Ichiro, and he wants to see you before he dies. And that's the same guy from the beginning of the movie who he helped save.
Right.
So he goes to Japan, and he meets up with him, and I think he meets his, weird son. No, he meets his son who's, doing, sword practice, and then he doesn't meet the daughter. He just sees the daughter off in the distance, and she gets the slow motion treatment to let you know that that's the lady that he's going to be trying to banging. So then he talks to Ichiro, and Ichiro's like, oh, you want to die, but I don't want to die, so let me kill you so I can live. And then Logan's like, are you out of your mind, old man? And he's like, come on, Logan, you want to die, don't you? And he's like...
Yeah, he's propositioning Wolverine to take his mutant power, his healing power away, and give it to the old guy.
Yeah, and he's like, no, goodbye. And then there's also a physician there, I think that is called Dr. Viper, and then he's hanging out...
Oh my god, that's right, Viper's in this movie.
Yeah, so he's hanging out in that house, and he's sleeping, and he has a dream, I think, of Dr. Viper, poison kissing him, and then he dismisses it as a dream, but it turns out, oh no, that actually did happen. So the next morning, he wakes up from the nightmare, and then he's been informed that, oh no, the old man has died, and the lady who went to go get him, she's a mutant who can see people who can die in the future, and she's like, oh man, I did not foresee it. And so the next morning, they have a funeral. Also, at some point before this, I think he stops the granddaughter from committing suicide, and that's nice of him. She was gonna jump off after getting slapped by her father. But anyway, they're at the funeral. His Ichiro's son tries to start some shit with Wolverine, and it's cute because we all know he would stab him. There's also a bunch of there's a dude with a bow just kind of hanging up on top of a roof, where I guess he's a bodyguard. Anyway, a bunch of Yakuza dressed up as monks shoot up the place, and it's okay because there's a mutant there with the mutant power of bows, and he's able to take down a bunch of people. And this is around the time that Logan actually takes some shots, and he's not healing for some reason. So you're kind of supposed to think oh man, he could be injured. So he ends up saving the girl who is called Mariko. Yeah, it's Mariko. And they end up on a bullet train, and then he fights more Yakuza, and I think there's the best fight scene is in this specific scene, because he fights a bunch of dudes on top of a bullet train going super fast, and these guys, I think, don't even have mutant powers, unless their mutant powers are knife fighting.
Yeah, no, they're just like dudes. They're just Yakuza dudes.
Yeah, they're Yakuza dudes with just like sick knife skills, and he tricks one of them into jumping and fucking getting hit and surely dying. And it was fucking hilarious, and that's a great scene. So props to this movie. So Logan and Mariko decide to hide inside a love hotel, and they decide to go with the Mars theme because they had to pick from a certain set of love hotels. If you don't know what a love hotel is, look it up. I'm not gonna tell you. And then it finds out that Harada is the bodyguard. He's the guy with the mutant power of bows, and he's talking to the lady who like kissed Wolverine into, we assume, being hurt in some way. And there turns out they're both looking for Logan and Mariko, and Logan ends up, I think, getting sidetracked, and he gets thrown off the top of his building, and starts getting beat up, but it's okay because Mariko saves him. And then they start to slowly fall in love as they go back to the original house. And I want to say around this time they have sex. And then they have sex. Yes?
Yes, I believe they do.
There's no sex.
They either have sex or they like awkwardly have like PG-13 implied sex.
I mean, they wake up and they're right in the same bed, and Wolverine has half his shirt off. So either they were doing that or they were doing awkward hugging. I don't know what. I don't know how that would work out. But
it could be either one, really.
Yes. So then, because of Logan decided to have sex, I guess she gets kidnapped in some way. She gets kidnapped by the Yakuza. And then Logan is talking. He interrogates one of the guys. He's like, I never talk. And I think he says, good for you. And he kills him.
Yeah, he like throws him out of a building or something.
Oh no, that comes later. There's like a dude before him, but either way, he figures out that the person that he needs to go get is Mariko's fiance, who is a corrupt minister of justice. And then like they start talking, and then he makes him confess, and then he throws him off a building, and he lands in a pool. And then the girl with the psychic abilities is like, "How did you know there was a pool down there?" He's like, "I didn't." And then they move on.
That's right.
That's right. And so, also around this time, Mariko keeps telling Logan, like, you can't keep doing this because I saw a vision, and in it you're holding your heart and it's not beating. And he goes, it doesn't matter. You have your mutant abilities. I don't believe it because you also thought that the old man was gonna die, and he didn't die. And her only response is, oh. She has like no comeback. She's like, all right,
well, to be fair, he's kind of right, yeah.
Yeah, he's kind of right. Her ability is shit. Anyway, I guess they go back to... So Mariko ends up being kidnapped by her father, and her father wants to kidnap and kill her because she's supposed to inherit the entire Yamada industry, or I don't think it's called Yamada, but I'm calling it Yamada. Like, the entire, the entire family business, basically. Yeah. And he gets stopped by the army of the dudes who can shoot with bows. I'm gonna say ninjas. I think they're ninjas.
They're ninjas, yeah.
Yeah, mutant ninjas, or maybe just regular ninjas. And
I think they're just regular ninjas.
Yeah, and Mariko's father gets hit by the poison. He's able to stop this by going into water, which makes it seem like, okay, I guess that's all you need to stop the deadly poison is just get into some water. But anyway, Logan goes back to that house to try and find Mariko. He can't find it, but he does find the X-ray machine. And then when he puts himself through it, he sees that there's some kind of robot parasite at his heart. And he's like, oh, this is what's stopping my healing factor. I'm just going to cut open myself and then, touch my heart and take this thing off of me. So then, during this operation, the dude wakes up from being poisoned, and I think he's in a is he in the samurai outfit? I think he's in the samurai outfit and gear.
He's in just like regular samurai clothes, yeah.
Okay, so somewhere in between getting poisoned, he decided to put on some samurai gear and get ready to just walk around the house with a sword out. So he gets in a fight with the future girl. And then during this, they fuck up the machine. So Logan is trying to get this thing off his heart. And then he gets it off of his heart. And then it's assumed that he dies because, his heart stops beating. But it turns out, oh no, he's done this multiple times. He can just come back from being dead. So it's okay. So then he fights his father. And now he's back to 100%. So this fight is just, super easy for him. And he's like, I'm not going to kill you. I'm going to let you live with the fact that you were going to kill your daughter. And then he walks away, and then the samurai guy's like, maybe if I tried stabbing him one more time. And so he stabs Wolverine in the back, and it doesn't work, so Wolverine just kind of kills him. And so
that's my favorite. I'm sorry to cut in. That's my favorite fucking scene in this movie, is that Wolverine's like, no, you live with it. But then, like, he's like, actually, no, I'm going to kill you.
Yeah.
Actually, never mind.
Like, dude, because the dude literally, like, backtracked. He's like, I get it's a total, like, Goku going, you fool. Like, that's the only thing missing from this scene. So yeah, so then they decide to go to. I think they're following Maruko's trail. Also, around this time, you see the blueprints for the Silver Samurai outfit, which they kind of established. The Silver Samurai is this magical being that's supposed to protect the family. But anyway, they fight into a giant town of ninjas, and then the ninjas are like, we can handle him. He doesn't have his healing factor. And then he shows up, and then it turns out that, oh yeah, they don't know that. So they try and act all big, and then Wolverine literally just, like, kills a bunch of them. And there's even a scene where I think someone gets killed by a snowblower.
Yeah, so they're fighting this gigantic fucking army of ninjas. And the girl is like, I'm really not very helpful right now.
Yeah.
And so she drives a like a snowplow kind of thing over a bunch of them. She kills like a bunch of them with a snowplow.
She basically Mr. Plows her way through everything.
Yeah, pretty much.
And this is the one part of the movie where it turns, like, crazy violent. And you're kind of going, like, this is not what kind of...
Yeah, it's extremely out of place. Like, it's not... I don't give a shit if Wolverine is violent, because it's fucking Wolverine.
Yeah.
But, like, the rest of the movie isn't this,
cartoony.
Like, out there. Yeah, and this is borderline, like, cartoon anime violence.
This is, like, Gremlin-style violence.
Yeah, this is, like... This is some ridiculous bullshit, and it's like, just...
They could have been playing a Christmas song in the background, and it would have gone perfectly with the scene. It was so ridiculous. But anyway, he goes to go... For some reason, like, Wolverine just decides to stop fighting and decides to go towards Mariko, where he gets a bunch of, like, just shit on his back. I think they're spears. No, they're arrows.
They're arrows with, like, lines on them.
Yeah, and none of that matters until he gets hit by a poison arrow and he goes down. And then Viper reveals, like, okay, here's the basic plan. I forgot why they needed the girl, but we're gonna use Wolverine, and we're gonna take your healing factor. And so the Silver Samurai comes out, and then he fights him, and it's this is hard to explain, but it turns out the person that's behind everything was the old man in the beginning, and now an old man in a giant mech suit shows up. To fight Wolverine. And he's doing really good at it because he has 2 adamantium swords. And he's also able to energize the swords. So he's able to fight him. At this point, Green Arrow decides that he's fighting for the wrong team. So he switches sides and he helps Mariko. Because he was also supposed to be... I think he was Mariko's first kind of love interest. And then Wolverine showed up. So he's now just kind of the side dude. He's her side dude. And so he decides to help out, and then he ends up getting killed by the Silver Samurai. And then Wolverine at one point loses his claws to the sword, so he picks up another sword. So now he's fighting with an adamantium sword against an old man in a mech suit. And then he's doing fine up until the point where he is starting to lose. And then I think the old man is able to trick him in some way, and he starts stealing his healing factors through his claws. And then, like,
he's like drilling into his claws.
And he's like, "Oh, I'm doing so good." And then his granddaughter is like, "Hey, you piece of shit! Remember all the terrible things you did?" He's like, "Mariko, no." And then I think she stabs him, and then that's enough.
She stabs him with one of Wolverine's discarded claws.
Yes, and then I think they just kind of let him fall to his death.
No, remember? Okay, so she stabs him with the claw. Which, for some reason, even though he's sucked out, like, all of Wolverine's healing factor, he's not ready to heal yet. Mm-hmm. So he's like, oh, I got stabbed with the claw. And then Wolverine's like, oh, he's not drilling into my claws anymore. I've got all my strength back. And he rips the samurai armor off of his chest, and then his bone claws are back. Because they healed through the cut-off adamantium portion, and he stabs him in the chest. And then he walks him over to a cliff, and he's like, sayonara, and he throws him off the cliff.
He does say sayonara.
He fucking says sayonara.
It's probably the dickish thing that he's done. But anyway, he stabs him, and that's the end. Yay, Wolverine killed an old man.
An old cancer-ridden man.
Yeah, in a mech suit. And so, he finally, like, everything's cool, and then, like, he's saying goodbye to Mariko. I don't really understand why he can't just stay in Japan. It seems like this is the healthiest relationship he's ever had. But he kind of goes like, well, I'm going back to America for some reason. And then she's like, and then tiny psychic samurai girl who's done kind of nothing, even though she was promised to be kind of good in the beginning, kind of goes like, I guess I'm going to show up and be your bodyguard now. And he's like, okay. And then she never shows up for any of the other movies. They go on a plane together.
Yeah, she's never in any of the other movies.
They go on the same plane together, but by the end of the plane ride, she's no longer there. So he finally gets off at the... It's shown in like a mid-credit scene. He goes off the airport, and then it turns out like, oh no, Magneto has his powers back. And then it's like, he goes like, there's a threat coming. He's like, I don't believe you. And then Charles Xavier shows up. He's like, hello. And then the movie ends.
Yeah, he's like, hi, not really dead. Because remember in X3, everyone thought he died.
Yeah. I think he says like, you're not the only one that can prevent death. And then the movie ends. And this is one of the few times where an end credits thing actually kind of follows up in the next movie, which is Days of Future Past.
Right, yeah, it transitions into Days of Future Past.
But yeah, that's basically the Wolverine.
Yeah, this movie was okay.
It's better.
It's a lot better than X-Men, but that's not a high bar, but it is better.
It's certainly... Here's the biggest problem for me in this movie is there's the period between... Wolverine, like, being a homeless crazy man having fun with bears to showing up to like the first Yakuza fight. There's just a long period where it's super slow, and it's not really anything interesting because it's just like an old man. Yeah, very little. Kind of, I don't want to say very little happens in this movie because it's not true, but there's a whole lot of start and stop in this movie. Where something will start off and you'll be like, oh, sweet, they're going to have this awesome fight scene. And then Wolverine kills like 4 guys, and then he's like, all right, we got to lay low in this bathroom or some shit. Where, I mean, it works for some movies. I don't think it necessarily works for a Wolverine movie because the overarching plot never stops. Like, you're never at a point where I guess it makes sense for them just to be sitting around doing nothing. Yeah. Because they're never like, oh, we're safe now, because they're always after the girl the whole time. They're constantly chasing after the girl. And it feels like for the first half of the movie, Wolverine doesn't really have a plan. There's not really any sort of plan other than, if they come near us, I will knife them with my hands. Yeah, that's basically all he has. And also, this movie is over 2 hours long. Oh, it's really long. It is far too long for this movie. And that's a shame, because there are some real good points. Like, again... when Wolverine gets his powers back, he just stabs that guy. That's pretty good. The bullet train fight where he's like, he tricks one of the people from jumping. It's the funniest shit ever because that dude jumps and immediately fucking dies. You hear the boom. He hits a sign, doesn't he? He hits a sign and you have to realize the bullet trains are going so fucking fast that dude had to have evaporated the second he jumped into the air. Yeah, like his entire body just is gone. Yeah, it's the most Bugs Bunny-ass death that there's ever been in an X-Men movie. But yeah, this movie's, it's better. Yeah, like, to be fair, the mutants they introduce are kind of more unknown. Like, if anything, maybe you have a slight problem with how the Silver Samurai is shown, and that he's a giant old man in a mech suit. But, you know, not a lot of Silver Samurai fans out there, unless you picked them in Marvel vs. Capcom 2 or something. Yeah, I mean, I know some people were like, the Silver Samurai deserves better than this, but I don't really give a shit about the Silver Samurai, because it's not, I mean, when you have a character that's that, I guess I don't want to say vague, because I guess maybe he's not vague. I mean, people know who he is. Yeah, but, like, I mean, it's not Gambit, you know what I mean? Yeah. It's the fucking Silver Samurai. So if you don't have the Silver Samurai, or you fuck up the Silver Samurai in some way, it's not the same as ruining, like, Gambit or Deadpool, like, these characters that have huge cult followings. The Silver Samurai is just, like, I don't know, just some dude that some people kind of cognizantly are aware of. Yeah, and to be fair, I guess, at least to the Silver Samurai, because I think at some points he's I think he was the first. I think he's in Big Hero 6, or at least he's in like the original version of the Big Hero 6. So there are like aspects of him that are actually kind of like important when you take into the context of like there's not like a lot of Japanese mutant heroes in the Marvel universe. So when you see Silver Samurai, and if you're like someone who's like, oh man, Silver Samurai, he's real good in the comics, I'm a big fan, and then you see he's a giant old man in a mech suit, it's disappointing.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying they did his character any form of justice. I'm just saying I don't personally give a shit that they did.
I can see that. I mean, it sucks for the people. If
you have to pick a character to ruin, better the Silver Samurai than Gambit.
Yeah, but to be fair, if Gambit was an old man in a mech suit, this movie might have been way better. If at the end, the Silver Samurai removes, he's like, "It was me, mon ami. Remember me from X-Men Origins 1? I'm back."
It's the same guy.
It's the same guy. So,
but I kind of agree with what you're saying, where this movie is better. And it has a lot of really cool moments, but those moments are tied together by stupid bullshit that doesn't matter.
Yes, and I still want to say that by the end of this movie, they do not give a good reason for Logan leaving that girl at the end. It kind of makes him seem like a dick that he basically entered his life, banged her, saved her life, and then was like, all right, peace, I'm out. You got a company.
I think the point of it is that he's recovered and he's ready to be an X-Man again. But I don't know why he even thinks there are X-Men anymore, because he thinks Professor X is dead.
I mean, I think Storm is still holding up the...
I think she's the teacher.
Yeah, the new teacher, so maybe, I don't know. By the end of it, it feels like he's, I think they're trying to do the classic, the Spider-Man 1 ending, where he's like, I'm leaving you because if I get too close, you're just gonna get killed. Which I think is why he leaves her in the comics originally, is why he leaves her. And in this movie, it just kind of makes it... They never really establish that, because he never really says it. So you're just kind of left to imply that the relationship might have been getting too real, and Logan's like, I still have, this Magic Phoenix lady who shows up in my head and has sex with me. So I'm
in my dreams.
In my dreams. So I'm not really ready for a long-term relationship. So I have to go deal with that. But the second I'm fixed, so... I'll be back, I swear. Either you or your granddaughter, whichever one happens first. I live a long time. Okay, bye. And then he leaves.
Yeah, he just kind of leaves. And then they kind of dick tease you by putting his original costume. His, orange or his yellow and brown original Wolverine costume is actually in the movie. And he opens it in a briefcase. And she's like, the psychic girl's like, yeah, you fucking like that shit, nerds? This is the Wolverine suit. And then it never comes back. And they don't do anything with it.
Yeah, that's weird. Also, I would have liked her character way more if she was just actually breaking the fourth wall and saying, "You like that shit, nerds?" Because that would.
Yeah, her character feels like it has no real reason to be there.
No.
It's nice that she's a sidekick that actually gets shit done.
Yeah,
because she's effective.
Yeah.
But I don't know, because I think she's the one that actually defeats Viper, right?
Yeah, she is.
Yeah. Which is cool. It's nice, to get a character that's not a leading X-Man or something, get something. Because especially in a Wolverine movie, I was expecting him to just be like, I'm fucking everybody up.
Yeah, she's much better than, anyone from X-Men Origins Wolverine. She's she's better than Will.i.am, she's better than Blob, she's better than fucking Liam Schreiber's, hello, everyone. I
am Sabretooth.
Logan. Let me tell you, we're gonna fight now. But yeah. This one's pretty alright.
Yeah, I like her there's just some shit that while she's there, I'm kind of like, okay.
I get it.
Her mutant power sucks, and I don't know why I care.
And then there's certain points where I'm watching it, and I kind of go, you kind of look like that weird... I don't know, maybe... I think there was one point where I looked... She had, some clothes on, and it reminded me of Ronald McDonald for some reason. And I couldn't... And once that entered my mind... that she was I think the love child of Ronald McDonald and Where's Waldo, it never left my mind.
Fair enough.
Yeah. That's how life goes sometimes.
Yeah. But I'm conflicted on this movie because I don't hate it by any means. It's not one of those movies where if it's on, I'm like, turn that shit off. But it's not great.
Yeah, it's kind of like what's that Pirates movie? Was it Pirates 2, where it's not actually all that good, but at the same time you won't kick it out of bed?
Yeah, basically. It's basically every Pirates movie except for the first one.
And yeah, not counting 4.
and yeah. Well, 4 is the X-Men Origins Wolverine of
Yeah.
the Pirates franchise.
It is.
Um,
But yeah, that's enough of, I think, the Wolverine.
yeah, these movies are weird because Origins is so shitty that you don't even need to talk about it. And this movie is so bland and like plain oatmeal that it's hard to talk about it.
Yeah, also they do the same thing where they keep... I think they do their own version of the wolf looks at the moon and howls because he's lonely for Wolverine. I forget what they say, but they say basically the same thing for him.
Oh, one thing I did want to talk about is this is one of the first movies, I think, for a superhero movie that got the rated R mega cut.
Oh yeah, I saw that cut. That's the cut I saw.
Yeah. Which is fine. I obviously don't give a shit if Wolverine is violent, because Wolverine's violent as fuck.
Mm-hmm.
But this movie felt like they did it just to do it. Like, I'm not one of the kinds of people who's like, my children don't need to be seeing this. Get this off my fucking screen. But, like, why the fuck did they really need to show, like, 20 ninjas get blended up in a snowmobile thing? Like,
I think there's also a scene where I think Wolverine says "fucking ninjas." I don't.
yeah, that happens.
So maybe that's why they fought for it, is for that line. Fucking ninjas.
Like, I'm all for gore when it makes sense and it services the story. Like in the movie we're about to talk about, like Logan, there's a lot of gore, but it's never the focus of what's going on.
Yeah, it's just
like when he cuts people, they fucking bleed and like shit comes out of their guts and shit, but like the camera doesn't linger on it and it's never like, whoa, look at that sick shit Wolverine just did. It's just like, you know, that fucking happens when someone gets stabbed, so that's shit's fucking happening, you know what I mean?
Yeah. It looked like the rated R cut was more of a thing of like, we know that this movie isn't that good, so we decided to throw you guys a bone and be like, I know you guys wanted a rated R Wolverine, considering that when we released X-Men Origin Wolverine, everyone basically just played the game because they were like, this is a better version of the movie because it's super fucking violent.
Yeah, pretty much.
So yeah, I think
I guess
you're
that's
right.
ultimately my point, is that like it feels like they shoehorned in a lot of violence just to be like, look what we can do, yeah, and it doesn't necessarily help the movie because it gets distracting. It gets kind of dumb.
Yeah, like imagine if they released an X-Men 3 version, a rated R version of X-Men 3 where the only thing they added is that when Cyclops dies, like he fucking has an Akira style death and there's blood everywhere. You'd go like, that's cool, but also that's really like doesn't mesh with anything else in the movie. It's like
exactly.
crazy.
Like, I don't give a shit that there's the violence. I just give like, because Deadpool is hyper gore, and I don't give a fuck about that.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, why is it only in these couple scenes? Is that like the only ones you got permission to reshoot for the violence?
Does feel that way. Is that all they could? All they could afford was to kill some ninjas by a snowmobile.
That was all the clearance they got, was ninja death.
Yeah.
Generic ninja death.
It is also weird that here's an actual legit problem with the Wolverine, is that Wolverine's main thing is to get up close, and then everyone he fights is a close range fighter. So
yeah,
it's
no like issue.
Yeah, there's a lot. This also happens in kung fu movies where when there's a shit ton of ninjas, wouldn't all the ninjas they should just attack at once? But instead they do the thing of like, okay, let's get at them one at a time.
Yeah, that's actually a trope. What is it called? I think it's called conservation of ninjutsu, where they only have a set amount of usefulness among themselves, the mooks, so they have to go one at a time, otherwise they wouldn't be able to work.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Like, they should have been, all of them should have been bombarding him at one point, but no, they do, like, the one-on-one thing. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, which, of course, is not going to do shit against fucking Wolverine.
Who, at this point, they've been told that he's, like, a monster. It's like, they just keep disrespecting the fact that, like, no, this guy should be able to kill us all very easily.
Yeah, he will ruin all of us, so please don't fuck around. And then they're all like, well, let's slowly approach him in a line.
Yeah, that's basically all they do. they fight like the old British Army used to.
Yeah, they do kind of. Okay, so let's go on now to the last movie on our docket, because this episode's running a little long.
Oh yeah, we knew it was gonna happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the last movie that's the Wolverine focused movie is the most recent X-Men movie, I think. Am I lying?
You are correct.
So Apocalypse came out before this?
Yes.
Okay, good, because is
two very different kind of movies.
Yes. So the last one in the Wolverine sort of trilogy is Logan, which a lot of people saw this, a lot of people loved this. It's pretty much a critical darling.
I think it's probably... I was going to say, until Wonder Woman came out, it was the highest rated superhero movie.
I'm surprised that Wonder Woman is that highly rated. Not that I thought the movie was bad.
No,
But
they're both in the same essence doing things for the first time, so it kind of makes sense to me. It's just that Wonder Woman had a very different first thing that a lot more people gravitated towards.
That's fair.
Yeah. But yeah, Logan.
So, yeah, Logan. So, jump cut to the future. I think it's like 2025 or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
So, not that far in the future, but the future. It's like 10 years in the future or whatever.
Our basic future.
Pretty much, yeah. And no mutants have been born for a very long time. Logan is kind of old now. He looks aged and grizzled because his healing factor is not that good anymore. And he works as like an Uber driver. In
Texas?
I think so, because he goes back home across the Mexican border every day to some sort of like, I don't even actually know what it is. It's like some kind of facility. It looks like a factory or something.
Yeah, I just know there's a giant dome.
Yeah, so he goes back to, he lives in this factory with an old senile Professor X. He's got like dementia or something like that, so he loses control of his brain, and Professor X's brain is like a fucking nuclear warhead, so that's not a good thing.
Mm-hmm. Very bad.
Yeah, and then like Professor X has an episode, and you see that they have to basically keep him drugged to keep his power in check. Extremely, extremely dark opening to a movie. Logan, I think, is sleeping in his car, and he's like drunk and depressed, and these guys are trying to strip it, or they're trying to steal his tires, I think.
Yeah, a bunch of cholos are trying to take the chrome off the limousine he's driving.
Yeah, and he comes out and he fucks them all up, but like you can tell he has a lot of trouble with them, even though they're just gangsters. So that's like your way of seeing that he's past his prime. He's not the hyper efficient killer Wolverine that he used to be.
Yeah, and not like gangsters. These are cholos. Cholos maybe are the easiest form of gangsters to deal with.
Yeah, these are like, at some point they I think they start running away at first, and then they start winning, and they're like, oh yeah, kick his ass.
Which is probably the most accurate portrayal of a cholo who think like if they think they're winning, they'll stay around.
Yeah, but yeah, so he does eventually kill. I don't actually know if he kills all of them. I think he kills most of them.
They're able to drive away. I think he kills at least 2 or 3 because I think he slices one of their faces off.
Yeah, and he cuts one of their like he gives one of them the under the chin, and the claws go out the top of their head thing. But yeah, so he fucking kills all those guys, and he drives back home to his shitty plant, and he's gotta like take a long time to heal the bullets out of his body now. Like it takes him forever to fall out. What's the other thing that he has to do? Oh yeah, one of his claws is stuck. It doesn't come out all the way.
Yeah.
So he's got to grab it and like slowly pull it out and like cut his hand open to get it out. Basically, he's fucked up. He's super fucked up. And then they're trying to save up money to buy a boat so that him and Professor X can go out and live their last days on the boat together. While Professor X is very near death at this point.
Yeah, he's very old.
He's extremely old, and he has these rare moments of lucidity, but for the most part, he's either drugged or dementia-ridden. Yeah. And then he is out. I think he's at a funeral that it's not of anyone important. He's just the driver to the funeral.
Mm-hmm.
And someone approaches him by his hero name. She calls him the Wolverine, which I assume is not something he's been called in a very long time, given the way that he reacts to it. and he tells her just to fuck off, and he doesn't want to work with her, he doesn't want to help her, he's not a hero anymore, blah, blah, blah. And then he gets approached by, I don't even know, he's like Bandit Keith? I don't even know who that guy is.
Yeah, it is basically future Bandit Keith without the American head flag.
Yeah, with a robo hand.
Yeah.
And he's like, hey, that girl that came over to talk to you the other day, she's smuggling shit that belongs to us, and we want it back. Do you know where she is? And Logan's like, fuck you, I don't know where she is. Get out of my fucking car. And he's like, all right, man. And he leaves. And then I think Logan finally agrees to help her when she reveals that she's got a little kid.
I think he ends up agreeing because he sees that there's a kid and he wants to like not help, but then she says like she has a shit ton of money, which is enough.
Oh, that's what it is, to get the boat.
Yeah, to finish the Sunseeker, which is the name of the boat.
Right. So shit, I lost my. Okay. So she's at Professor X is like trying to tell him that there's new mutants, and Logan's like, dude, there's no new mutants. There haven't been in forever. There's no fucking mutants. Stop telling me that shit. You're an old man. Fuck off. And then he says that he says that they're calling out from the Statue of Liberty, and Logan assumes that he's talking about the Statue of Liberty from the first X-Men movie, where they fought Magneto. And he's like, the Statue of Liberty was a lifetime ago, blah, blah, blah. But then it turns out that he's actually referring to the little girl who is at a motel whose sign is the Statue of Liberty. He goes to the motel, and it turns out that the bad guys have already killed the girl who was supposed to be like paying him, but the little girl had escaped, and she stows away in Logan's car, and the people find out that she stowed away in Logan's car, and they go to Logan's little like factory house to get her back. Logan tries to fight them and gets his shit kicked in pretty much immediately. Then they go inside after the little girl, and the little girl just starts fucking these dudes up in one of my favorite action scenes ever.
Yeah, it's real good.
It's really good. So she's inside the building, and Professor X is talking to her, and he's like, oh, you know, she's a mutant, and he's in awe of the fact that mutants are kind of coming back or whatever, that they exist again. And these guys show up, and she's watching them on like a security camera. And she walks out after they send someone in after her. You hear like gunshots and screaming for a little bit, and then it goes quiet. And she walks out with like her little Dora the Explorer looking backpack on, holding the guy's head that she cut off. And she rolls the head along the ground to the guy, telling him like, you know, that she killed him. And he sends them after her to get him. And then they have this Predator-style fight sequence where all these guys are going through the factory after her. And she's like skittering along the rafters and shit, just murdering all of them. When they start fighting her, Logan kind of sees his opening, and he starts fighting them too, because he gets a chance to break away from the guys that were pinning him down or whatever. He gets in the car and he starts driving Professor X away, and then the girl, he sees her and he drives over, and she flips onto the car, and they go off together. I left out a character, I just realized, but that's because I forgot he existed.
Yeah, to be fair, he doesn't do much.
He doesn't do much. Caliban can like sniff out mutants.
Yes, he's also albino.
Yeah, he's an albino, and he gets kidnapped immediately, and that's pretty much it. So anyway, Logan and the girl escape with Professor X, and they're running away from these guys. They're not the Weapon X people, are they?
No, they're not.
They're some kind of evil company.
They're like they're like a brand new company trying to make patents or something.
Yeah, anyway, so they bioengineered the girl as like a new Wolverine because she has Wolverine's powers. And so they escape together, and they're on the run from these fucking people. And I think they show up. Where do they get? It's not Vegas, but it's some kind of really fancy city. It's like Oklahoma City or something.
Yeah, it's pretty. I think it is actually Vegas because they go into like a casino, unless it's
is
like
it Vegas?
It's either Vegas or like Bronson, Missouri. One of them two.
It's some major like gambling city.
Yeah.
And they get there, and they're staying in a hotel, and the little girl's in awe because she's never seen anything like that's the real life. She's always been in some shitty little test facility. And then Logan finds that the coordinates that they're supposed to be going to are the coordinates to a fake location in an X-Men comic book.
Yes, called Haven.
Eden.
Eden, there you go.
Yeah. and he's all pissed off because he thinks that they were just driving this kid around for no reason because he assumes it's not real. But then the assholes led by Bandit Keith and the Rare Hunters show up, and then Logan's like, shit, they're there, they see me, I gotta get back up to the room. And then Charles has a seizure, which causes his power to go off, and it freezes everybody.
Yeah.
Because remember, in the other movies, he can do that. He can freeze your brain, and it like freezes up your body. But because he can't turn it off, he risks people suffocating or dying from it because they can't get free. For some reason, Logan and the girl can move. I assume it's their healing power because it's the only thing that they share.
Yeah, I think it's the healing factor, because every other person is not able to move at all.
Yeah, nobody else can move, including people with powers. Because you find out in a little tidbit later on that Professor X is the reason that all of the X-Men are dead, because he had a seizure and he killed them all.
Mm-hmm.
It's just Logan and the little girl, so I'm assuming it's the healing. But there's it's a really good scene where he's riding the elevator, but he's like trying to fight the mind control, and he can barely stand up. So he's like clawing along the wall to keep walking, and he's slowly like stalking over to these guys that are frozen and stabbing them one at a time.
Yeah, it's real good.
Yeah, to kill them all before he gives Professor X the medicine to make the seizure stop. So he gives it to Laura, Laura is the little girl, who injects Professor X, and they stop the seizure. Professor X is horrified at what he did while they're running away. It's a really sad scene where he's apologizing to everyone as they're escaping. But they make it away. I don't think they ever find out that the bad guys are using Caliban to track them. I don't think they ever actually find out what happens.
No, they do, because spoilers for later. Caliban ends up the second he ends up killing himself and taking out a bus.
Yeah, but I don't think Logan ever knew he was there.
No, he didn't. He didn't know that Caliban had done that.
Yeah. So they get off and they're on the street. And there's like auto-driving cars and shit, or like they're like tractor trailers, like 18-wheelers.
Yeah,
one of them runs them off the road, and they run another family off the road, and you find out that it was like designed to run that family off the road. So Professor X is like, well, we got to help them get their horses back in the thing, and Logan's like, no, we're being chased by an extremely dangerous paramilitary organization. We do not need to help them get their fucking horses back in the truck. And Professor X is like, come on, bro, yeah, we do. So Logan does it anyway for some reason.
Because I think he kind of is just accepting of Xavier. I like to think of it as like Xavier's just kind of trolling him, because
it totally comes off that way.
Because he's like, well, someone else will. Because I think his exact words is like, someone will come around to help, because like, someone are already here. Like every other word. Yeah,
he says someone will come along is what he says to Professor X, and Professor X says someone has come along, referring to them.
Yeah, basically, like every other word, he's just coming up with a one-liner to fucking
to fuck with fuck with Wolverine.
Yeah, just bust his chops.
Yeah. So they save the horse, and Professor X is able to calm them with his powers. I think it's one of the few times he's able to use his powers in the movie effectively. Mm-hmm. And they invite Wolverine, Laura, and Professor X to their house for dinner, which Professor X accepts for some fucking reason.
Because, again, I think he's just kind of trolling Wolverine. He knows that he doesn't want it, so he's like, well, of course we'll take it.
Yeah, so they go, and they have the dinner there, and they have an extremely, some sweet scenes where Laura is kind of seeing what real life is like, and Professor X is having his first sort of real day in the world he's ever had in a long time. Logan agrees to go with the father to go help turn, I think it's the water. I think the house's water gets turned off by some asshole, so they go to help turn that back on. And as they leave, the military assholes show up at the house with an evil version of Wolverine.
Yes. Yeah, that's accurate.
So it's actually kind of an extremely sad scene where Professor X is in the bed and the evil clone of Wolverine enters the room, but Professor X thinks it's regular Wolverine. Mm-hmm. And he's explaining to him that it's the best night that he's had in a very long time, and he's extremely thankful that Wolverine let them stop, only for the evil clone of Wolverine to stab him in the chest. Then Laura notices that the evil clone stabbed Professor X, and she freaks out because up to this point she's been pretty close with him. She tries to fight him, and it's not enough, and he beats the shit out of her, and then he kills the wife and the son of the farmer that they've been staying with. Wolverine and the father get back. He stabs the dad, I think, and then when Wolverine runs up to see what's going on, he sees it's an evil clone of himself, and he almost kind of backs down a little bit.
Yeah, mainly because he's more worried about Charles.
Yeah, he kind of sees that he's got the girl, but he cares more about Professor X, so he runs up the stairs to see Professor X. He sees that he's injured, and he's carrying Professor X out in a panic, trying to convince him that it wasn't him that stabbed him, it was someone else. And Professor X doesn't really seem to blame him, so, I mean, extremely sad scene, where I think the last words that he says was something about the boat that they were going to have together, as he dies. Yeah. And then Logan, in a mixture of revenge for Professor X and to save Laura, attacks his evil clone, but the clone is younger, he's not, withered or aged or anything, so he's just way too strong for Wolverine to fight, and he absolutely ruins him badly. And before he's able to finish him off, the injured farmer rams him with a truck and impales the Wolverine clone on like some kind of giant wheat thresher or something. I don't even know what the fuck it is.
Yeah, something like that.
Some giant piece of farming equipment. And it gives time for Logan and Laura to escape, because his healing is not completely gone, it's just really weak. So like he can get super fucked up, but not die from it. They go out near a lake, and they bury Charles while Logan tries to
start the car.
He tries to give him a bit of a eulogy, and he can't bring himself to do it. Laura tries to comfort him by holding his hand, but he kind of blames her for all of this at this point. So he yanks his hand away, and he takes out some rage on the car before I believe he eventually passes out. Laura somehow manages to pick him up and drive the car all the way to a doctor, who is like the first person we've seen all movie who's not like super derogatory and shitty to mutants.
I think like the first human in history.
In the the franchise history.
To be actually pumped to see a mutant, he's like, oh my god, I've always wanted to work on one of you guys.
Yeah, he was like extremely like respectful and proud, and like talking really good about Wolverine. He's like, let me help you, let me find someone that can help you. But Wolverine turns him away because he's convinced that the adamantium on his bones is what's causing his healing factor to get worse, and it's eventually going to kill him. He decides that he's going to bring the girl all the way to Eden, because why not at this point? It's also when you find out she can speak English, because up to this point in the entire movie she's only spoken either in Spanish or not at all, I think, right?
No, she doesn't speak at all. And then at one point she says...
That's right. She only talks because Professor X reads her mind or some shit like that.
No, yeah.
Professor X is like a surrogate for her.
Yeah, and then one point she says something in Spanish. And then it's actually a very funny scene where, like, Wolverine's like, you can talk, and then, like, when she gives him her reason why she doesn't talk, and she's like, she says it in Spanish, the only reason I'm not talking is because every time I try and talk, all you do is yell at me, and then the thing he does immediately is goes like, hey, shut up.
yeah, he's like all mad that she didn't talk, and then she's going a mile a minute, and he's like, all right, shut the fuck up, stop.
Yeah, but like in Spanish, she's giving the reason, because like the reason why is because all you would do is yell at me and tell me to shut up, so that's the reason why I didn't say anything, because you would just tell me to shut up, and then he immediately tells her to shut up.
Yeah, it's a good scene. So they finally get there, and Logan finds out that there's actually a small campground there set up by the other young mutants that escaped. So they based the coordinates on the comic book, not the other way around that he originally assumed. They help him, and they give him some kind of little serum shit. And they're like, yeah, we're using this on you to restore your healing, it'll make you stronger, and it'll make you heal faster, just don't take it all at once. And Logan's like, okay, thanks. Laura wants Logan to stay with her and come with her because she's gotten attached to him. Logan has also gotten attached to her, and he gives her the generic "people around me die" speech.
At this point, he has a lot of, at this point, everyone has died around him.
Yeah. He's 90% regret at this point.
Yeah.
She finds the adamantium bullet that he's had, and he reveals that eventually, on the boat, he was planning to kill himself, and he still is probably planning to do so at some point. they decide to leave without him because they reveal that he's not coming. But they have a funny little scene where they actually shave him in his sleep.
Yeah.
And they shave his beard into his original X-Men look, which is cool. And then when he wakes up, he finds out that he's more or less healed. He's kind of hurt, but not really. And he looks out through the binoculars, and he sees that the bad guys' trucks are chasing the children. So he rushes off to help them, finds out that he's just too weak to do it. So he injects himself with the full serum that the kids gave him. And he goes on a badass rampage where he just starts fucking these soldiers up, like, terribly.
I think it's basically like a sort of better remake of the scene from X3, where it's like, okay, now that we can actually do this the way we want to, this is the way we actually envision the original, because it's very similar in that he's running through a forest and killing a lot of soldiers, but
right.
It's better because they're
it's
actually...
much better.
Yes, it's way better.
So he has a good scene where him and Laura fight together, but he's taking a bunch of shots and the serum starts wearing off. And the old evil douche who cloned him and made evil Wolverine is like monologuing at him, basically.
Yeah, he is.
And as he monologues, Wolverine pulls a gun out of his back pocket and kills him. And he shoots Bandit Keith's hand off. And he's going after Bandit Keith to kill him. But Bandit Keith releases evil Wolverine, who's been here the whole time. And evil Wolverine starts beating the shit out of regular Wolverine while the kids kill the rest of the soldiers and Bandit Keith. The leader of the kids, apparently, I think he can control Earth.
Yeah.
So he lifts up the ground to flip a truck onto evil Wolverine. But that, as we know of Wolverine, that doesn't matter at all. So he's telling the kids to escape, to get away while they can. And evil Wolverine breaks out and attacks him again. And he keeps yelling for the kids to run away, and then evil Wolverine impales him on a tree right as Laura tries to save him and then shoots the evil clone with the adamantium bullet that Wolverine was going to commit suicide with. So she cuts the tree to get him off, but he, at this point, is dying. And he tells her to not ever be the weapon that they tried to make her, and that it's her life, not theirs. It's the first time she ever calls him Dad, because he's technically her father. And then they have a little burial for him on the border of America and Canada, where they all hold their little X-Men memorabilia. Like, one of them has a little Wolverine toy in his hands.
He does. It's very cute, actually.
Yes.
He's holding it very, like, lovingly.
While Laura gives him a eulogy, and all she knows to say is a line from the movie that she was watching earlier in the hotel room. And then as the children leave, Laura is the last one, and she takes the cross that they had put on his grave and turns it into an X before walking away. And that's the end of the movie.
The movie ends.
Yeah.
It's a great movie.
It's my favorite X-Men movie, definitely. Definitely. I think it's my favorite superhero movie, too.
I think, yeah, it's definitely up there for me. I would have to try and remember what a lot of them are, but when I first saw it, it was very few things compared to it.
Yeah, it's one of the very few superhero movies that you can say you don't need the qualifier "it's a superhero movie" in front of it when you say it's good. You know, people are like, "Oh man, it's a really great superhero movie." You don't even need that. It's just a good movie. It's a phenomenal movie in general.
And I think it also helps that this is basically framing it as the final Hugh Jackman and the final Patrick Stewart as well. Except for Patrick Stewart, I think, has gone back and said, like, oh, that was a lie. I'll show up in anything.
No, what did he say? Well, Hugh Jackman said he's not doing it at all anymore.
No, he's not doing it anymore. But Patrick Stewart...
Professor X said he's not doing the X-Men anymore, but he would do Deadpool if asked.
And also, I think, Legion, if he was asked to show up there as well.
Isn't Legion that weird mutant, like, hybrid of him and Magneto?
I think Legion is the... No, that's Onslaught. I'm thinking of Onslaught. Onslaught is a combination of him, Magneto, and Frank Richards, which I think is the Fantastic...
Yes.
What the hell? Mr. Fantastic's son?
Yeah, Mr. Fantastic and the Invisible Woman's son.
Yeah, Legion is something else, but that's the FX X-Men show.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know that existed.
Yeah, I saw the first episode of it. It's interesting. It's trippy. It's weird. But getting back to Logan, it's framed very much as their final thing, and it really does feel like a good final performance for both of them.
Yeah, I love them both in this movie. Jackman's great. He's still Wolverine, but he doesn't have the over the top kind of cartoony aspects of the character too much in this one.
Yeah, this one feels more of a very. You can see finally the damage has caught up to him.
Yeah, absolutely. And Patrick Stewart's great. I mean, it's almost hard to watch him when he's having like the episodes and then the breakdowns where he realizes that, because Patrick Stewart's character is very much back and forth between senility and lucidity in this movie, and the moments where he's fully lucid and it all kind of rushes back to him what he's done unintentionally in the past. The performance is spectacular. It's really good.
Yes, and there's a lot of like good moments where they figure out a way to, I think, mix in some humor, which is really weird because you laugh, but then you quickly go like, this is extremely sad. Like when he's walking around in a circle and he just starts screaming about the Taco Bell menu at one point.
Yeah, where he's having one of his episodes. Yeah, he's like rolling around in the wheelchair and he's ranting, and it's one of the things is a Taco Bell commercial.
Yeah.
That he's reciting word for word. And it is kind of funny at first, but then you're like, oh, Jesus, like that's Professor X.
Yeah. And then I think he also has, the great line of, you left me here with the fucking albino.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
And then the line where he says that, what did he say? I always know it's you, just sometimes I don't recognize you.
Yes.
Yeah, extremely rough lines.
As someone who's had to deal with something that's similar, of like someone who's older and not 100% there, and them slowly kind of, like, you see them slowly start to kind of lose themselves, it's very accurate in that. And like Wolverine is kind of having the same feeling of like what I remember back then, of just kind of going like, well, you're in a fucked up place, but I also don't want to see you go yet. It's right. It's a very human kind of reaction, because he really does, like, as much shit as Charles gives him, he doesn't want to see him go.
Right.
And it's,
yeah, Logan's extremely devoted to Professor X in this movie.
Yeah, it you understand why he goes for Charles and doesn't immediately go to save Laura. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of moments in this movie that I caught people laughing at in the theater that I thought were strange things to laugh at. And I had a discussion on Twitter about this back when I first saw the movie back, months ago when it came out. Mm-hmm. And someone brought up a good point, is the scene where right after they bury Professor X and Logan has the breakdown where he just starts wailing on the car with the shovel because he's just snapped and he just doesn't know what else to do. And then he passes out. A lot of people were laughing at that scene, and to me, that scene was sad as shit. Mm-hmm. So it was confusing to me at first why people were laughing, but his explanation made a lot of sense, is that at that point, the viewer was just so desperate for, like, an outlet. Like, because everything was, because, that came right on the heels of the farmer family being killed and the death of Professor X and Logan having to bury and give him the eulogy, that they just needed something to kind of take the edge off, I guess, Yeah,
it's very similar to when you see a lot of people watching a horror movie and some people will start laughing. It's not because it's really all that funny, it's because they're using laughter to hide the fact that they're actually extremely scared.
Yeah, like they need to get it out somehow,
and they don't want to feel scared, but they do want to feel like they're laughing, like, haha, look at this, isn't that funny?
Right.
But they're really just kind of terrified on the inside. And I think it's similar to that, of just like, there's so much, like, it's weird because, again, this is something that it reminds me of, but I remember totally being like at a funeral parlor with my family, and we were all, at one second we were just like devastated crying, and then the next second we're like outside the church a little bit, we're still waiting for the ceremony to start, and I'm talking to like my uncles, and we're just like having like a gut buster of a time. We're just like making each other laugh, and we're laughing, we're having fun. And it's literally because like the feeling of sadness just makes you want to immediately try and go find something else. Like,
just something to something to get to make yourself feel better.
Exactly. You want to hold on to that because you just like let all that shit go, and the first thing you want to replace it with is just like some laughs.
Right.
So I can understand, like, in that movie kind of doing something similar.
Yeah. Also, I wanted to touch on. I don't want to say it's a Hollywood trend because it's not. It's only a few movies that do this. But something that I think made this movie a bit more emotional is it's one of the movies that, and not to say that superheroes are probably more popular now than they've ever been. But at the height of something like the X-Men was, I don't know exactly how old you are, but I assume that you're old enough that you know the old X-Men cartoon and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I'm aware of those.
Yeah. So for people that are generally in, I don't want to say R because I don't know if you're about as old as I am or not, but for my age group, the movies they're starting to kind of grow these movies with us because they're like Toy Story 3 did this very much, where they're aware that a lot of the people that are going to go see this movie are people who were little kids when the first one came out, so they aged up the character to a similar age, and they made the movie a lot heavier. And this movie's kind of, I guess, the same thing for me, because like it's like a Spider-Man movie where Spider-Man is like fucking having a life growth crisis. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
it's the Dark Knight Rises basically of the comic book movies. Where when Frank Miller first came out with like Dark Knight Rises, there wasn't a lot of like comic books that dealt with like, I guess, the more kind of mature themes of like these are all comic books that we grew up with, but now we're older, and
Right.
This is how this kind of story would end. Like that one was supposed to be, until he made too many sequels and ruined it, supposed to be like the final kind of Batman story.
Right.
And I think that's similar to something like Wolverine, and I definitely felt the same thing for Toy Story 3, where I was perfectly fine with there being no more Toy Stories. But lo and behold, there's more Toy Stories coming out. But, you know, that's the way life goes sometimes.
Well, yeah, that was never going to happen. But yeah, like just, I don't want to say they're playing on nostalgia, because they're not. I mean, not in the sense of something like, hey, look, we're bringing out, I don't know. I don't even have a good example.
Have you ever seen the 2009 version of The Muppets, the movie?
No.
So this is basically what you're talking about to a T, because the Muppets, as you remember it, are like this happy-go-lucky like group of people, right? And then the Muppets movie from 2009, which I think is PG. It's rated PG, but they have this thing of like the Muppets have been gone for an extremely long time, and then the movie begins and they're like, let's get Kermit, and then Kermit is like in a mansion where Miss Piggy has left him, and he's kind of surrounded by memories of his friends, and he's kind of like, listen, the Muppets didn't work, and I don't really feel like dredging up these memories. And then like they end up convincing him, no, let's do it. And then like later on he meets Fozzie Bear, and you see what happened to Fozzie after the end of the Muppets, and it's the most heartbreaking shit ever, where he's working with a parody of the Muppets. And
God.
And he's like doing his like little side bit, and then Kermit goes up to him, and you learn that he's like living in trash. And then like Kermit comes up to him and he goes, Fozzie? And he goes, oh Kermit, I didn't know that you were here. And it's the most heartbreaking shit ever, because Kermit goes up to him and goes, Fozzie, I didn't know. He's like, well, you were kind of busy. And it's the most, like, I'm actually tearing up because it's the saddest fucking thing you can think of. That's Fozzie fucking Bear. He's the happiest guy in the world, and now he's like homeless and trying to tell his friend Kermit that he didn't want to bother him with his problems.
Yeah, it's kind of like that. Like they bring up a lot of things that sort of my generation, maybe yours, is that was a big part of us when we were kids. Like Toy Story. Like that, obviously that movie was hugely popular when it came out. Yeah. It was like the late 90s or something like that. And then we have the 15 to 20 year sequel later, where they don't necessarily play on your nostalgia for cheap money, but you kind of sense that the movie kept up with you, you know? Where it's not like Pokemon, where every year Ash is 10 and he's off on a journey to be the best because that's what he's got to do.
Yes.
Where he's never allowed to grow older. The movies kind of felt like they're still applicable to you, and they kind of, I don't know, like with Wolverine, or any kind of superhero, really. I guess Wolverine's just the one they did it with. For people who really like those characters, that was a character when you were young that you kind of looked up to, because superheroes are a different kind of form. Like when with a character like whatever Ash Ketchum or like Luke Skywalker, that's something that you as a kid you kind of look at and you're like, that's I want to be him. You know, that you put yourself on that character. With superheroes, it's not so much that, I guess, just because of the nature of what they are. Is it something more that you look up to, like you want to be like that, but you don't put yourself over the character, like Superman. Like I think they actually said this in the Superman movies, was that someone like Superman would give people something to work for, to work towards, something to like idolize, and that's what a lot of superhero media usually is. And I know for the case for a lot of people like Spider-Man, Batman, Superman, Wolverine, these are things that their whole life they've been around. So that final scene in this movie in general, seeing this character that you've known your whole life more or less. I mean, obviously he's not real, but that's been a big part of your life ever since you were very young. And when you're a little kid, you either idolize the character for whatever reason, or you learn lessons, right and wrong, whatever, from watching characters do heroic things. To watch him like be this broken guy just trying to get it done, and then seeing him die at the end, it was extremely rough.
Yes. Like, I remember talking to this movie with Jace, and he was saying to me, like, because I love that ending as much as sad as it is, and then Jace is like, he actually said to me, "You love that ending?" I'm like, "Yeah, I thought that was the perfect way to end it." And then he goes, "The perfect way to end it was him to be happy in Canada with his daughter." And then I was like, yeah, that would have been the happy ending, but that's not the ending of Wolverine. That's not the way most heroes go. They don't go, I forget what media exactly said it, but I'm trying to remember the exact quote, but the exact quote is, I think a character's talking to someone else, and he goes, "You know what's the difference between me, you, and regular people? Is that regular people get to have normal deaths. We don't get to die in our sleep. We die violently." And that's kind of how I always pictured every hero kind of going out, is that they knew the risk of what they were doing, and there was only one way for them to kind of leave the world, and that's through violence. That's kind of the way the hero goes. And he does it because to protect the people who can have the normal life that he can't have. And that's kind of what Wolverine does at the end, is that he dies, and he tells her specifically, "I don't want you to be me. I want you to be..." He does the classic dad thing of, "I want you to be better than me." I like any good father, you would imagine, that who has to deal with like a rough life, they want their child not to go what they went through. I remember once when I was a kid, and my dad, I told him like, "Oh man, I just want to be like you, like a truck driver." And he told me to my face, "I don't want you to be me. I don't want you to choose to be a truck driver because I was this. I want you to 100% be better than I ever was. Otherwise, that's all I ever ask for you. I'll provide everything else. All I want you to do is to never strive to be me. Be better than me." And I think that's kind of what he tells her at the end, and that's kind of what they're kind of going for.
Oh yeah, definitely. Mm-hmm. I will say that Logan is the only movie that we've done on the show, movie, show, whatever, that I did not rewatch prior to the episode.
You just couldn't handle it?
Okay, well, I am not in any way like ashamed to admit that I cried blatantly in the theater when he died, but openly. And no, I have not rewatched the movie since. Not that it's a bad movie,
no,
but just like it's difficult, like, you know, because for me, like we touched on the X-Men movies in the first episode, the X-Men was a big part of my life growing up. Wolverine's character specifically, like, he represents a lot. Like my mom and I would sit down and watch the old X-Men cartoon and stuff, So yeah, it was not easy watching the end of that movie, and I was not in a rush to do it again.
Yeah, no, I understand, because I did rewatch it just before, because I wanted to just remember it, and I was watching it, and yet again, the second that she goes to pick up and she puts up that cross and she puts an X, fucking lost it again. Just like, yep. I thought I could handle it, and then it turns out, oh no, it turns out that last bit which she does at the end, it's not enough. And I think that there's also a lot of like symbolism in the ending of the way he dies, in that like if you see it, it's Logan escorting a bunch of people who were kids who grew up with the X-Men comics. And the X-Men comics are the things that they kind of know for. So he was their hero. So when he dies, even though they only knew Logan through the comics, that was akin to losing like a big hero. And I think that's kind of what they were going for, is that this is very similar of, we are those kids who looked up to Wolverine and we were doing all the things that we wanted to do. And now he's gone, and now it's time for us to kind of now pick up from where that left off and I guess go fight the government. Obviously, put on your suit. It's time to fight racism against mutants. That's the next thing. It's what Logan would have wanted.
Because like those kids were X-Men fans. Like, yeah, you're absolutely right that they were. I mean, I guess they were pretty much audience surrogates at that point. Is that they were big X-Men fans too, you know? And I guess everyone the scene where they're burying him. And they're all holding whatever little X-Men thing meant the most to them. The kid hugging the toy, the toy of Wolverine. I don't know, man. It's a lot like... I mean, I guess I'm just circling around the point of it being an audience surrogate. But it very much felt like you were there. Like the kids were you know?
Yeah.
After all this time... You're watching something like that happen. Like I did watch the ending one more time since I saw the movie. Not recently. I haven't touched the movie recently, but one time afterward, I rewatched the ending, and yeah, it crushed me again. So I haven't watched it since. But this is a movie where, like, yeah, you're gonna have that kind of reaction, especially if you're a fan of the X-Men in general. Because even if you're not a Wolverine fan, like if you love Professor X, this movie is gonna fucking brutalize you.
Oh yeah,
it's worth seeing it though. I think
definitely.
Yeah, I highly recommend the movie. It's one of my favorite movies ever. Like it's a top 5 all time for me. I think. But just be prepared. It's not an easy movie to watch if you have an emotional connection to any of these characters.
Yeah, and even if I think you don't, I still think they do a good enough job of like establishing stuff through in that movie. Like even if the Wolverine was never your favorite, I do think you feel for how he's kind of going. Because again, we never really see heroes get that far. Because in like, here's the kind of sad thing about it, is that when the day comes when Marvel's looking to get to like when it's time for like Tony Stark to go, Robert Downey Jr. will leave the role, but they'll just replace him with a new guy. Like. Right. Don't think that they won't. Fucking Don Cheadle replaced Terrence Howard, and they did that shit the second they could. The second there was any problem, they were like, Terrence Howard, goodbye. There is no next time, baby. New actor in the suit. That's what I kind of feel like they're going to end up doing. And maybe that's not fair to Marvel, but when you come and tell me that they have a plan, I don't see their plan ending. Logan feels like this was people looking at what they had for X-Men and kind of going... I think this is it. I think it's time to end it. And I think props on Hugh Jackman, who is fucking... I don't think there's anyone who has ever encompassed a role with no regrets as much as fucking Hugh Jackman. That man, I think, loves Wolverine, and he understands that this is such a good send-off that even something that would make money, like a Deadpool and Wolverine movie together, he's like, no, this is the end. This is how it stands.
Yeah, out of it's about the character for him more than it is the benefits of getting to be the character.
Yes, and only if you're gonna put Wolverine in an Avengers movie, call me up, because people have been wanting me to see me stab Hulk for a very long time.
Yes, that's true.
He definitely comes off as like he understands what fans want because he's also a fan of Wolverine.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't have too much else to say after my little explanation there.
I'll also say that Wolverine is a great hero to us all. We should all strive. He is the All Might for the American people. We must stand up to the symbol of peace that is Wolverine. Well, the symbol
not even I don't know about symbol of peace, but
symbol of violence.
Symbol of extreme violence for positivity's sake.
Also, he's Canadian, so really Canadian hero.
Yes.
Never forget. But yeah, that's it. you should go watch Logan, even though we just described it. Watch Logan. If you're gonna
If
see
you
any
haven't
of these,
seen it, see it immediately. Yeah.
if you're like, I haven't seen any of these X-Men movies, I'm perfectly okay with just saying go see Logan.
Yeah, because you don't even need to watch it as an X-Men movie to like it and to enjoy what happens.
Yeah, and I also hope that this kind of shows that we'll get out of this kind of what I feel like has been a weird rut for comic book movies, where Logan showed up and felt like a good slap on the arm that was much better. I think
Yeah, I agree.
the same will happen. And weird for it to be Fox the one to do that. But, hey, they're trying the weird things even if they're kicking and screaming the entire way. Alright, so I guess it's time to talk about what's coming up next then, right?
Yes, sir.
Then let me show you a preview of coming attractions. After talking about the emotional journey that is Wolverine going from bad to okay to holy shit, I'm crying, we're going to First Class, which I'm going to guess is the Days of Futures Past? Is that what that trilogy is called?
I think it's just called the I'm sure there's a name for it. Because original trilogy makes sense, but also doesn't make sense because that's the first 3 movies.
Yeah.
I think it's like I guess the Days of Future Past timeline or the First Class trilogy or whatever.
Yeah, I think we'll call it the First Class trilogy. We'll be talking about X-Men First Class, X-Men Days of Future Past, and X-Men Apocalypse. And then after that will be the movie series that I will be talking about, that I have decided to talk about.
Yeah, X-Men was my turn, and I've taken up 7 months of concession stand time with the X-Men.
Yeah.
So,
and I think I've got a pretty good idea on what that is. I'm going to leave it a mystery. I'll tell Zen after we're done recording what I'm thinking of maybe doing. I'm still not 100% sold on it, but maybe we'll see.
All right, sounds good.
And with that, remember everyone, support your local concession stand.
Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Goodbye. All right, that should be good.